Combine the dream come true of being a dad with the dream to be of entrepreneurship. You're presented with a world of possibilities along with a world of challenges. Join Joel Lewis as he interviews successful entrepreneur dads sharing how they made it work from the start. This is Startup Dad HQ.
Hey, welcome to Startup Dad Headquarters, where we're exploring the intersection between fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and life. I am your host, Joel Lewis, and today, Startup Dads Backstage, I have a guest whose story will truly inspire. My guest today is Grant Baldwin, founder and owner of How Did You Get Into That podcast? But his website is grantbaldwin.com. So Grant is a national speaker, author, and host of one of the top-ranked business podcasts in iTunes called How Did You Get Into That podcast? Today, he continues to encourage and inspire people to find and do work they love. Startup Dads, Grant's story is going to be truly inspiring, and his mission and what he's working on aligns very well with our audience, with Startup Dads out there. So I highly encourage you to go check out grantbaldwin.com. But why don't we get into the interview? We'll talk more about Grant, and we'll ask him more about what he has going on and his Startup Dad journey. Hey, Grant, welcome to the show.
Greeting, Joel. It's great to be here. Thanks for letting me hang out with you, man.
Awesome. Thanks for being here as well. And I told the audience a little bit about you. As I told you earlier at the beginning, this was the shortest bio I've had. So please take a minute and get us up to speed with what you have going on right now.
Yeah, from the husband-dad category, I'm married to my high school sweetheart. We started dating when I was a freshman. She was a junior, so that's my claim to fame there. We dated for a while, got married. We have 3 beautiful little girls, so it's like you, man, we're in a house full of women, and it is awesome. Our own little sorority Barbie dream house is there. It's really, really great. So my career for the past several years has been as a speaker, so I travel all over the country, speak primarily with high school, college kids, helping students think through, prepare for these next steps of life. And then, like you mentioned, we recently started a podcast called How'd You Get Into That, where we're just interviewing interesting, inspiring types of people, and just trying to figure out what is their journey, what are some things we can learn from them. So it's a fun life I get to live.
Awesome, man, and your energy just comes out over over the broadcast, man. I love it.
Sweet. Well, if we're gonna hang out together, we might as well have a good time, right?
That's right. Now, Grant, as you know, this is Startup Dad Headquarters. So we're all about the family and, of course, showcasing amazing startup dads like yourself. I was recently inspired by a quote which goes, "No other success can compensate for failure in the home." And I felt that it would be a perfect segue into the first segment of our show, which I like to call Family First. Now, I asked our guests to submit a family fun picture, and you submitted a beautiful picture of your family and your 3 beautiful daughters and your beautiful wife. Can you share with us a little bit more about what's going on in this image, a little bit more about your family?
Yeah.
We'd love to learn more about them.
We just took, this is actually just a couple weeks old. So my wife there is Sheila. We've been married for 12 years, been together for 17 years. My oldest, which would be on the, depending on which side you're looking at, the blonde hair on the one side, Sydney, she's 8. And then on the other side with the glasses is Emily, she's 6. And then the middle one there is Miley, she's 3. And so Miley is the craziest one of all, as you might be able to tell there. So that is a good representation of our family right there, is all of our girls, as you well know, man, each girl has their own little distinct personality, but together we have a lot of fun together.
Yeah, and you know, like you said, the picture is beautiful, and you know, just the smiles. It's like all of you guys are smiling together. It's an amazing photo, and I love to see that. And I have I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 20-month-old. So very close.
Nice.
to what you have going on. So how do you balance between the family and the business? You have you have these beautiful women that you have to take care of, and then you have the business side. You have to put food on the table. How do you balance all that?
Yeah, I think it's never easy, because I think guys like us, we're driven guys, we're motivated guys, we enjoy what we do, And so given the choice between like doing nothing and working, I enjoy work. It's never something that I dread, but as an entrepreneur, it's something that I really enjoy. I know that it's creating a great life for my family. I know that it's already created a great life for us. So many of the experiences and opportunities that we've had have come as a result of just the hard work we've been able to put into our business. At the same time, though, there is definitely that balance there. And so I don't want to just work and work and work and work and work and be a great businessman or a great speaker or a great podcaster, but just drop the ball as a husband or as a father. Like that's not worth it to me. So I've always said, and I firmly believe, like if I make a difference in everybody else's life, but if I fail as a husband or as a father, like I'd rather work be a greeter at Walmart or something. It's just not worth it at the end of the day. So I think you have to be really, really intentional about how you're balancing that, how you're spending time with your family. A couple things I do, I try to schedule every day, because as an entrepreneur, nobody's telling me when to start, nobody's telling me when to stop, which can be really a dangerous thing. So I try to just schedule each of my days and be really intentional about when throughout the course of my day I'm spending time with my family. We try to take a lot of trips together, even if it's not some long, extravagant vacation, but just little getaways, from time to time, where maybe they'll tag along with me on a speaking trip of some kind. And then also I try to do a lot of daddy dates with my girls, and making sure that I'm taking them out one-on-one and letting them pick and choose what it is that we get to do. Something else that we do is, I lost my train of thought. I had something good. I was going somewhere with it. Hang on. It's gone. If it hits me, I'll bring it back. back.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's my one icebreaker question, because after this we're going deep, man. After this we're going deep. So besides throwing out the trash, what's one chore you're responsible for?
I have to do my own laundry. It's true. It's a fun fact. I do. And I don't even know that it's necessarily like I have to, or I was ever like there's ever an ultimatum. It's I think I decided to, because it would just like pile up, and I want it done. She's like, you can do it whenever you want. So where the washer and dryer are. You dump a little cup of the liquid in there. So last night I'm lying in bed, and then my clothes finished going through the wash. So I was like, I gotta go, hang up and switch laundry. So yeah, I do my own laundry.
Nice. Yeah, I've talked to dads where the wife was taking care of all the laundry, and then they made one comment, like one negative comment, and it was like, that's it, you're doing your own laundry after that.
I don't. Yeah, it's funny now that you mentioned. I don't even remember what started that, but. Yeah, as soon as you said it, that's definitely the first thing that came to mind. Is I definitely do my own stuff.
Right, nice. Now that we are now that we know a bit more about you and what you have going on right now, and with this being Startup Dad headquarters, it's time we talk about your start. I like to refer to this as the true Hollywood story, true Startup Dad story, of our show. One of my favorite quotes is, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Now, take us back to the beginning and share with us the initial steps of your Startup Dad journey.
Yeah, so in high school I was really involved in my local church, and my youth pastor had a big impact on my life. And so for a while I was like, man, that's what I want to do. I want to be a youth pastor. That sounds like a cool gig. If I can make a difference in the lives of other students, that would be phenomenal. So I went to Bible college, graduated was a youth pastor for a little while. And parts of it I enjoyed, parts of it I didn't. And I was just trying to, I resigned from that position and kind of just went through a season of about 6 months of just trying to figure out, all right, I went to school for this, got into it, parts of it I liked, parts of it, it's not what I wanted to do. So what do I do now? I was about 24, 25 at the time, and just kind of had that almost like a quarter-life crisis of like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And so I knew I liked speaking, I knew I was decent at speaking, I knew there was a few other guys that I was friends with that were good speakers, and I was like, that seems like a cool way to make a living. So I got started going down that path, and like, man, I want to be a speaker. It sounds like a great gig. And so for the past 7 years or so, that's what I've been doing. But getting started, it was, it's really tough, because it's not like you quit a job on Friday and then on Monday, like magically all of a sudden you have a full calendar of speaking engagements. It took me about a good year and a half of building my speaking business before I was really able to do it full time. So in the interim there, I was working at a couple different like fine dining restaurants as a server. I worked at a security company doing like sales work for them. And so for a while I was doing like this hodgepodge of different things just to like piece together in order to make a living. And so as the speaking business was building, then I could drop one thing, and then speaking business built a little more, and then I could drop another part of the income. So before long, I was able to do it full time, but it was just a long uphill battle of just pushing this rock uphill and feeling like some days you had some traction and some days you were making progress, and other days you're like, this sucks, I'm not getting anywhere right now. But thankfully we've been able to make it work, and it's been a fun journey.
Nice. Now, Grant, when in that journey did your daughters start to show up? You say you have your daughter's 8 years old and 8, 6, and 3. So when at some point when did they start showing up?
Yeah, in fact, my oldest daughter, Sydney, when my wife was pregnant with her, that was a big eye-opening experience, because at the time at the church where I was working, I was working a lot, and it was just kind of one of those type of roles where I felt like I was always on, and it's not like you clocked in and clocked out, you just felt like you were always on standby, and I hated that feeling. And so when my wife got pregnant, there's nothing like bringing a child into the world that just opens your eyes to, like, man, if I'm a great youth pastor, but if I'm just gone all the time, like that doesn't work. So in fact, even whenever that was a big catalyst to me really kind of questioning, like, what do I want to do long term, and what kind of life do I want to build, and how do I become a good dad? And so that was a difficult transition, because even whenever I left that job, she was about 5 months pregnant. I didn't have anything else lined up. It wasn't like, okay, I'm leaving this thing and I've got this whole other thing lined up over here that I'm headed towards. It was just kind of, I know I don't want to keep going down this path, but I'm not really sure what I'm going to instead. So that was our first. And then Emily was born a couple years later. And at that point, the speaking business was well underway. And then a couple years ago, when Miley was born, our youngest, the speaking business was definitely very well established. So, but that first one was Sydney. That was definitely one that really got me thinking about what am I building here? What kind of life do I want to create? What kind of career do I have, and how is that going to affect me as a father? So definitely nothing like having a kid that just changes everything for you.
Nice. And my follow-up question would be the catalyst question, and you definitely touched on that and answered that. Thank you for that. Now, there's a powerful quote by Will Smith that goes, just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide, and then from that point, the universe is going to get out of your way. Share with us where you were and how you finally made the decision to pursue your dreams.
Yeah, that 6-month period or so between whenever it was actually closer to probably 9 months, whenever I resigned that position at the church, and whenever I first started my website and started promoting myself as a speaker, that period was just a massive catalyst, because it was a brutal time in life of going, what do I want to do now? Because I'd gone to college for this. This is what I felt like I was going to do for the rest of my life, and I got into it, and you're like, sheesh, I know not every situation, every job, or every church is like this, but is this what it is that I want to do? And if I were an entrepreneur, and I'd been drawn to entrepreneurial activities and projects, so I knew I would like to do something on my own. I had no idea what that looked like. So I think that for me, that 9-month period, I'm really just kind of soul searching and figuring out what am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? What am I passionate about? How do those things translate into a career? And how do I actually make that happen? Because it would have been very, very easy to leave the position and then just like, okay, let's just go find another job, because we need health insurance. We got a baby on the way, and it was a rough season, but I wouldn't change anything about it, because it helped me. It really forced me to be like, man, I've got a kid on the way. I've got this dream I'm chasing. Our backs against the wall. We gotta make this happen. And so for me, that was kind of the stake in the ground. Like, this is we got to do this, And I didn't feel like I did it like potentially jeopardizing our family, or like, hey, I'm just going to chase this dream and hopefully it magically works out. But I felt like we had a good plan and put that plan into place, and it did fall into place. But it wasn't like it just all magically came together. But just very intentional, a lot of hard work. And being really focused on, this is where I'm going, this is what I need to do to get there, and this is how I'm going to make it happen.
Now, how did you approach all that with your wife?
You broke up for a second. Say that again.
I'm sorry. How did you approach that with your wife? So now she's pregnant, you have your daughter on your way, first daughter, and you're saying, hey, I don't think this is what I want to do anymore.
Yeah, no, it went really well, actually. My wife has always been super supportive, so I think especially at this point now, she's kind of like, hey, whatever you want to do, you'll probably figure it out. So I'm just, we're a team, but at the same time, I know sometimes she's just like, I'm along for the ride, and as long as you're still bringing in income and we can eat and live indoors, then whatever you want to do, I'm good with. And so, yeah, I think there's definitely when you're making that transition from the known to the unknown, from the safety and security to the entrepreneurial dream, it's definitely tough, and so you want to involve your wife as much as possible in that decision-making process. So it was never like I just, it's not like I came down the mountain one day and was like, hey, this is what I'm doing, so you better just strap in and buckle up for this ride, and hopefully this all magically works out. It's like, hey, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm chewing on, here's what I'm wrestling with. Give me some feedback. Am I crazy? Am I out of my mind? Are you ready for this journey? And so my wife has always been, just super, super supportive on that. So even today, like I'm the guy that runs the business on a day-to-day basis. But like major decisions, I always involve her in and just say, hey, here's what I'm thinking about. Here's what I'm chewing on. Is this cool? Does this make sense? Is this kind of direction we're going? Is this any thoughts on that? And sometimes she's like, no, cool, whatever you think. And sometimes she's like, I'd rather you not, or I'd rather you try this instead. And it's like, great, I want that feedback because I trust her. I trust her opinion. I trust her wisdom and her intuition, especially. I think anytime your wife has a feeling that she can't really articulate and explain, and you go against that feeling, typically it ends up costing you money. So if my wife has a feeling of sometimes like, all right, babe, well, let's go with that because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to second guess you on that.
Nice. So Grant, we're just over the halfway point of the show, and we're now entering a segment that I like to call Real Dads, Real Talk. This is probably the most important segment of the show. This is where we go deep, and I ask a series of tough questions that we just can't skip over. Grant, are you ready?
Let's do it. Come on now.
All right. Now, as a father, husband, and provider, being self-employed must at times seem a bit scary, and you talked a little bit about that. Can you share with us a time when failure, doubt, or fear almost made you give up, and how did you overcome that?
I think failure, doubt, fear happen every day. I've been doing this for a while, and to be honest with you, my schedule, speaking-wise, next month is the busiest month we've ever had. This month, at the time of this recording that we're in, is one of the slowest months I've ever had. So you have those months, you have those weeks, you have those days where it's like, this is great, this is all working, this is going wonderful, and then you have those other days where you're like, man, what am I doing here, And so I think that's just natural. On our podcast, I interview people, and the other day I was talking to a gal who has this massively successful blog, and I said, at what point did you feel like you felt safe and secure? She's like, I've never felt like that, And so I think there's just always that, and I think that's healthy, to feel somewhat of just like, man, I got to keep hustling no matter how long I've been at it, no matter how close I've got to that edge where it all could have just come crumbling down. It's worth it to keep pushing and to keep grinding and to keep hustling to continue to make the dream a reality. So I don't know that I've ever wanted to go get a traditional job, but there's certainly those days where you're just like, man, what am I doing? Do I need to chase a different dream, or do I need to figure out how to better make this one work? So I think you always have those second guesses, those doubts, those insecurities, those fears, and that's I think if anything, that just means you're normal.
Yeah, awesome. I love that answer, and to be quite honest, that's the best answer I've gotten for the show. At least that's the answer that resonates with me the most so far.
Cool.
What has been the hardest personal sacrifice you've had to make along your journey?
Well, I think the nature of what I do as a speaker, one of the tough parts is traveling, and I can't, in order to go speak somewhere, I can collect a really good paycheck whenever I go, but I have to get on a plane, and thus I have to leave my family. So that part, it's fun speaking, and it's fun traveling, it's fun seeing different parts of the world, but I hate being gone. So one thing we've had to really work hard on is just balancing that, because as a speaker, you can do as few or as many dates as you want to, and so there's some guys who will do 100, 150 dates a year, and some guys will do 10, and everything in between. So it's really, the business is what you want it to be, but there's certainly been times where I've been traveling and I've been gone, and a lot of times a lot of the events I get booked for are booked, months and months out, and so I may be booked for something, we just got booked for something that's a couple of years from now. That's in 2016, which is, almost 2 years from where we are now. And so we put that on the calendar and we're booked for that, but I don't know what's going to happen those dates, meaning we booked this 2 years out, and that date, one of my girls may have a recital that gets scheduled a month before. It's like, I didn't know that 2 years ago whenever I scheduled this, Right. And so that can be very difficult times, where there are those times where I've missed a recital, or I've missed a practice or a gymnastics meet, or something that may not be a huge thing long term, but for me, even it's like, I hate missing that, and I hate being gone. And so thankfully I've been able to miss very, very little of those things, and thankfully with things like Google Hangouts and FaceTime and Skype, we've been able to even be a part of some of those digitally. But yeah, there's definitely those moments where it's just like, it's tough being gone, it's tough being away. And even if I'm not missing anything, each time I leave to go on a trip, my girls are, it's sad for them, it's sad for me, and so we part of the reason of starting the podcast is being able to cut back on some of the travel, and be able to find other ways to build a business, because I could travel for the rest of my life, and again, if I'm a great speaker, if I travel a lot, I've got a lot of airline miles, but if I'm just never home, then I've really dropped the ball in the area that it matters most.
Yeah, one of the things that I've gotten from a lot of the dads is that startup dads is that one of the reasons they started their business is so they could basically create a business that works around their life, right? So they could so that they could kind of control their time and be at those recitals and be at those gymnastic meets and basketball games. So definitely resonate with that definitely resonates with the startup dad community.
Cool. Sweet.
So Grant, one of the biggest fears and limiters keeping dads from taking action and starting their own business is private health insurance. And again, something you mentioned earlier. Can you share with us what you do for coverage or some suggestions?
Yeah, health insurance is very expensive. But one of the things I found is there's a lot of dads and a lot of people in general who are like, I'm scared to leave my job because I have health insurance. Health insurance is it's a financial benefit. So, for example, if you figure out that it costs you, let's say, $5,000 a year in health insurance benefit of what you're getting from your job, well, if you know that you can make $6,000 more per year on your own, then you're not losing anything. You're actually gaining something. So I think you just always look at the math there to figure out what it costs. So for us, a big thing that I highly recommend is the HSA, a health savings account, and so we have that connected with a major medical insurance. And so for us, it doesn't cover a lot of the the sniffles of just running into the doctor, but we don't have like a small, tiny little copay or anything. So sometimes it's to go to the doctor maybe $7,500 or something. So we really got to pay attention to those. So for us, the insurance is more in the situation where you've got some major surgery or some serious medical issue. So that means we have to save a lot. We have to set a lot aside because a lot of that comes out of pocket. But there's also, using an HSA, you've got the tax benefits there. So health insurance is definitely expensive, and it's a necessary evil of being self-employed, but don't let something like health insurance deter you from being a startup dad.
Nice. Awesome. If you had to do it all over again, would you, and why?
I would totally. I think at this point I'd make a horrible employee. I've had different opportunities to take positions that would be good positions and good jobs, but they're just doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't do anything for me. So I always say this, I would never change anything about everything that's happened up until this point. And we've had some great days and some days where you're just like, man, what am I doing here? And everything in between. But I wouldn't change anything, because everything that's happened up until this point, the good, the bad, the ugly, has helped shape and define who I am today. So I love my life. I wouldn't trade lives with anybody.
That is so great. So Grant, we're at the final segment of the show. I like to call this the rapid fire handyman segment. This is where we quickly reach into your toolbox and you provide the Startup Dad community with some really useful tools. Are you ready to rock?
Yeah, I'm going to preface it, though, that I have zero handyman skills. Now, I know we're not just talking about just tools, but honestly, in my house, my wife is the handyman. So if we've got an issue in anything, I just defer to her. Her dad knows how to build anything. So I did not get that skill set, and apparently she was not looking for that when she picked me. So I know nothing about handyman stuff, but I know I can answer whatever questions you've got.
Yeah, usually the icebreaker question I have above with throwing out the trash, the first answer is usually, hey, I fix everything around the house, and then it follows up with something else. But yours was like, yeah, I washed it. I washed.
I can change light bulbs in our house, and I can find a screwdriver, but that's about the extent of it.
Nice. Now, what is your number one time management hack or tool?
Schedule everything. So if I was to show you my calendar right now, from the time I get up to pretty much the time that I'm finished working, everything's scheduled. Everything's scheduled. So there's never a question of what's next, which I think sometimes hangs up dads and just entrepreneurs and employees even. We're just kind of like, man, I don't know what I should be working on. I don't know if I'm working on the right thing. So I schedule everything throughout the course of my day, and I stick to that. So I'm able to I get a lot of work done, but I'm very, very intentional about where my time is actually going.
Okay. What's one way you manage your health?
I like to bike a lot and run a lot, and so I've done a couple different triathlons. I've done 2 full marathons, about 6 different half marathons. In fact, at the time of this recording, this coming weekend, I'm doing my first century bike ride, so a 100-mile bike ride. And so one of the things that's helped me is the idea of just exercising for the sake of exercising has never really done much for me. I'm just, I don't know, maybe it's just me, I just find it boring. So I like to have something that I'm working towards, something that I'm training for. So the different races that I've done, this one that I'm doing this weekend, I'm not the fastest by any means, but it's the sense of working towards something, of having accomplished something. And then also, whenever I sign up for a race, if I sign up for a marathon right now, that means whenever a few months from now, when I toe the starting line, I've got to be ready. Like, you can't just show up and wing it for a marathon. You know, like, just want to see how it goes. Like, you've got to put the work in. So there's times where I'm really, really busy, but if I've got a race going on that I'm training for, then it forces me to be like, I got to get this right in. I've got to get this running. You know, this week is a good example. I went for a ride on Sunday night and popped a tire right away. But you know, this is race week, and so I've got to get a couple rides in and be ready. And so I was like, crap, this is a horrible week for this to happen. But went and got the tire fixed immediately. Went for another ride last night. And even though it's busy, it's just like, no, I have to get it in. I make it a priority. Whereas if I'm just exercising for the sake of exercising, I would have probably come up with excuses like, the tire popped. The universe doesn't want me to ride today. And just not worried about it. But it's like, no, I have to get this in. So I make it a priority for myself by having something that I'm working towards.
Yeah, I ran one marathon, and yeah, I'll stop at that.
You survived. You live to tell about it.
Right. I'm more of a Spartan race guy now.
There you go. Nice. Cool. I haven't done one yet. I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think Chris Brogan just did one. So what's one book every startup dad should absolutely read?
Let's see here. On the work side, one of my favorite books is called Rework by the guys at 37 Signals, Jason Fried and David. I can't think of his last name now. Anyway, really, really good book. Highly recommend that. On the dad side of it, a great book for dads of daughters is a book called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters by, I believe, Dr. Meg Meeker. And that's a really good one. Just realizing one of the things that really stood out to me from that book was that a dad is the #1 influence on a daughter's life, more so than her mother, more so than her sisters, more so than her friends. A dad is the #1 influence on a daughter's life. So we carry a massive responsibility of what we've been given and what we've been entrusted with. So that was a great eye-opening book for me.
Yeah, I definitely gotta check that one out. Startup Dads, we definitely gotta look that up. So I'll have those both of those in the show notes for sure.
Cool.
So Grant, this was an amazing interview, and your journey is truly inspiring, like I knew it would be. My final question is a little long, but it always produces really powerful answers, and with your energy, I know it will absolutely produce a powerful answer. On the other side of this broadcast is a startup dad who, at this point, is fired up and ready to go. But as soon as the broadcast is over, he will put down his mobile device and life is going to happen. And by next week, he'll find himself right back in the day-to-day minutia of things. What would you say to that dad to inspire him beyond this broadcast?
I would say this. One of my favorite sayings, one of my favorite quotes is, who you are is more important than what you do. And so meaning in our culture, in our society, a lot of times we judge each other based on what it is that we do. So a lot of times we meet each other, we ask each other two questions. What's your name? And what do you do? And as soon as you tell me what you do for a living, I make a lot of assumptions about you. So you found out I'm a motivational speaker, and you may assume I live in a van down by the river. I don't, not anymore. We just moved out. And so realize that who you are as a dad is more important than your job title. It's more important than how much money's in your bank account. It's more important than what kind of car you drive. It's more important than the brand of clothes that you wear. Listen, your daughter, your son, they don't give a crap about any of that stuff. They just want you to be their dad. They want you to be a part of their world. They just want to hang out with them. And so make that a priority. You know, if we fail as entrepreneurs, and I hope that none of us do, but if we drop the ball in that, so that we can and we excel as being dads and husbands, then that's the stuff that really, really matters. So that's the stuff I got to remind myself, because like I said at the beginning, I'm a very motivated, driven guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I push hard, I work hard, but I want to play hard too, and I want to be an insanely good husband and father. But that only comes with intentionality and reminding myself that who I am is more important than what I do.
Nice. Awesome. Grant, thank you for your time, for sharing your startup dad journey, and for a truly inspiring episode. Please take a moment, share any final words, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, Joel, thanks so much for the opportunity. I had a great time hanging out with you. If anybody wants any more information, you can go to grantbaldwin.com, check out our podcast, which is called How'd You Get Into That? And honestly, feel free to email me, grant@grantbaldwin.com. I'm happy to help you in any way that I can to help you on your journey to find and do work you love.
Awesome. Thank you, Grant.
Hey Startup Dads, take the next step right now and download your free guide called 9 Apps Every Startup Dad Should Have in His Toolbox. It's only available at StartupDadHQ.com/free gift. Again, that's StartupDadHQ.com/free gift. So go download it now, and we'll see you next time on Startup Dad HQ.